Dude, this mortgage buying process or this house buying process is absolutely awful.
Yeah, I don't want to do it.
No, they keep asking me to submit the same information over and over again. And I'll tell you this, owning an LLC or a business and being like self-employed is like the worst thing you can do if you're looking to get a mortgage.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
they already have like a bias against business owners. Because they, I guess I don't know what it is. Like a lot of business owners don't, handle their money well or something.
Mhm.
But my money is like very walled off. I format our money based off of profit first for the business, but also like for my individual self. But they asked me for some stuff like that didn't make any sense. So I asked Jeff, our accountant, and I was like, "Hey, what are they asking for here?" And then he explained. So like, just some background information was, they were questioning a line item in there, and they're like, "Hey, you paid this amount in quarterly, like you said, quarterly taxes, but then you owed this amount for your last year taxes. Can you explain the discrepancy?" I'm like, "It's not a discrepancy. I paid last year's taxes in May. The stuff that you're seeing in July is is my quarterly taxes that I'm paying for next year." And
Estimates.
and they just don't understand that. And so I asked Jeff. I told Jeff that I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And he goes, "Yeah, a lot of banks right now are having very like biased decision making processes around loans right now because they're expecting the market to just crash." And I'm like, "What do you mean expecting? It already did crash." And but I think what he means is a recession, and
Yeah,
they're just being hypersensitive to who they loan money out to. But
that's weird. It's strange too, like how so in contrast, something I've researched, I've spent a decent amount of time looking into is the like permanent residency and naturalization process if you want to become Japanese, or either get permanent residency, or if you do want to become Japanese, then what the naturalization process is like. And I was reading through some Reddit threads, and there was one guy who said that's his job, that's what he specializes in, is helping people accomplish that sort of thing. And he said out of 300 people that he had helped accomplish that, only one time it was rejected. And you could guess what that person was doing with their life at that point in time, and they were not employed by a large company. So it's weird being here in the US where we are very pro-business, and it's actually relatively easy to do business if you want to do business. And you compare that and think about how other places make it much more difficult or have even more bias. Because I've experienced it too. I can't even think of the situations, but more recently, because like I don't have a day job, this is the sole source of income, and there's a plenty big enough savings cushion padding to cover things, but they don't care about that, and they don't want to see that. They just want to see what's coming in, and that's how they make their judgments. So
yeah, it's frustrating because it's like, things that like people like say or companies that are very pro business, but then it's like, okay, then why do you have so many hoops to jump through just to handle this? Like, you dealt with the same problem with being remote. It's like nobody understands remote work, and it's 2022. Like, we've already had the pandemic. How do you not have a process for handling someone who owns a business that doesn't have an office location?
Yep.
And you were running into that problem with our bank?
Yes. Well, to be fair, not our bank. Our bank has actually been amazing with this, and that's why we ended up going back. So we up until recently, we had been using, somewhat recently, it was a while ago now, using my personal credit card for business because it was going to be such a hassle at the time to get approved for a business card because of the paperwork that they required and the background. We looked at it right away, and they said, you just don't have enough history. You don't have enough to go off of for us to do this. So it's not worth it. So we didn't use that. And then we started looking for business credit cards. And because we put ad spend on the credit card, we want to take advantage of whatever the most beneficial bonus programs are. So one of them was think it was Capital One has some of the best ones, and they just were not cooperating at all. They're asking for things, and I would try to explain to them. I gave them all supporting stuff that I could, but just said, one, we try to hide our address because legally, the legal address, if you look it up with the state, is going to just be my place, and there's nothing. I'm living here. That's it. I'm working here, but people aren't coming here. That's just what we have to do for paperwork and whatnot. So we have a PO box, and that's what we try to direct everything to when we have to do paper stuff. But even then, we try to avoid that as much as possible. So they weren't cooperating. We went back to the bank, well, Viridian Credit Union. So they're a credit union, and explained the situation to them. And they said, yeah, okay, cool, whatever, that's fine. So they're much more understanding. And
you would think for a company that's like actually remote, like Capital One, they would understand, you know, how another remote company works. And I mean remote as in like, they don't have any physical office like branches, and that's how they can have such high APYs and you know, high accounts, which is because they don't have any overhead. And which is, I don't know, it's frustrating. Anyways, this is all really great segues to our first ever topical podcast episode, which is all about recessions for agencies. I don't know what the title of this is going to be yet. The working title was Recession Proofing Your Agency, but to be honest,
something about recessions.
Yeah,
recessions
it's, you know, something recession.
Recession, spooky.
But yeah, I mean, and a lot of the things that we already just talked about in that opening there are literally things that we're going to cover in this episode, like having low overhead, which we can do with remote business. So I think we'll jump right into our first one, which is trim the fat. So there is this, we've covered it in a previous episode about like getting fancy software just for the sake of getting fancy software. And this is one of those things where it's like, you should only have what you need to operate, especially if you don't have a lot of clients. And, you know, you've got to trim the fat. We're working on trimming the fat right now. We're trying to get rid of an expensive reporting tool we're using, and using the free Google Data Studio tool, which you're heading.
Yeah. And that is a good time. I have no idea. It's annoying to go from working on something like a multi-month process of something that you are familiar with and just know you need to do the work for, and then go back to square one of, okay, I'm an idiot again, and I know nothing about what I'm about to get myself into, and I need to go learn it and then do it after I learn it. So that's where I'm at, because I have seen stuff with Data Studio, and I know it's most likely going to be sufficient for our needs, but actually learning how to do and implement these things, especially with my learning style, because I like to learn everything, including more than what I will ever need to know about whatever it is that I'm learning, and then go actually make the functional important part of it. So, but the reason that we're looking into it is because it's free. And we already drink Google's Kool-Aid with all the other tools. We're using Google Ads, Google Analytics, Search Console, Google Voice, Google Workspace. I mean, we're deep in it. So it makes sense for us to work with it. And it seems that they keep growing their integrations with other platforms too. So
this reminds me of the Pimp My Ride meme with Exhibit, where he's like, I heard you like Google, so we put Google on your Google so you can Google while you Google. That's us. But yeah, so like that's just one way that we're trimming the fat. But ultimately, being as lean as possible isn't going to save your agency from a recession, or really save any business from a recession. Part of the reason why we're remote is because we don't have any offices or overhead that we have to really worry about except for payroll. So whatever we put away into savings is literally to cover payroll, make sure people have jobs, make sure people are getting paid. And we do that a lot with the Profit First system. So Mike Michalowicz, I think that's his name. He's got a book called Profit First, and you should definitely read it, because it's all about segmenting your money and making sure that you pay yourself a profit before you even pay like any of your bills. And then whatever's left over, if you don't have money for your bills, then you have too many bills. And one of the ways that we do it too is we have a capital expense account, which covers all of our kind of overhead stuff, reporting, website hosting, our CRM. And the rule that we set for ourselves that we don't always follow, but we do have a rule, which is we don't want the monthly capital expenses to equal half of the percentage allocation that we put in there. So if we put 10% of our monthly revenue into capital expenses, we should only be spending up to 5% of that. That way there's just some room to take on something. Let's say one of our employees' computers break, and now we've got to pull from the capital expense fund to then pay for that. But if we're always operating at 100% of our capital expense allocation, then we can't do that. We've got to pull from savings, and savings is meant for payroll.
Yeah, I think it is recession related. It's more so just put on some big boy pants and run a business like a business. We put up walls between our accounts, and whatever's in that account gets used for that purpose. And
like with physical accounts, like not just on like a
yes.
like not like on a T sheet, like you do an accounting class, like like we have our local credit union, Viridian, where we have set up like, I don't know, there's like 7 accounts in there.
Yep.
And then we log into a dashboard, and every account has its own nickname, has its own account number. And then when we do monthly accounting or monthly whatever we call it, and we'll go through and we'll allocate the percentages to each account and make sure each account has money in it allocated specifically for that purpose.
And this was Jake's idea originally. He presented to me. I was, of course, like everything, hesitant at first, and then grew to really like it. And I never realized the best way I could describe why it's beneficial is many people are so emotionally attached to their business money, and they don't see it as money in their business. They see it as their money. So when things are in specific accounts, it's no longer your money. It's that account's money serving that specific purpose. And the money that's your money is in the your money account. That's where it's going. That's your profit. That's your payroll, depending on how you're structured. But when you think of it that way, it's much less emotional to make those calculated decisions.
Lauren, every time like we meet up and like Evergrow pays for like our pastry and our coffee, Lauren gets in line. I'm like, go ahead, it's on Evergrow. But like, it's not, I'm like, she's like, oh, well, like, thanks. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm not paying for it. Evergrow's paying for it.
Yeah, it's always funny because we'll get that in different ways too, where people they say thank you to us. And I guess it is us. We're doing it because we are the owners of the company, but the company is paying for it. But because we both agreed to put it in this account, and then that's what the account pays for, we're both like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Like we never felt accountable to the money anyway, because that's what its purpose was for. But
yeah. I mean, what if we have like the only time that we distribute like excess out of capital expenses and like savings and things like that is like towards the end of the year to lessen the tax burden. And then even then it's only like $1,000 each of us. Like it's not much. And so like I don't ever put money in there expecting that, hey, this is eventually going to be in my pocket. I actually put money in there expecting that, hey, we're either going to spend all of this or it's going to roll into savings. And
the reason why we, assuming people listening to this are in the US, we are an LLC, but we have not elected to S Corp yet. And we definitely could have by now, and we're just holding off for structural reasons. So we are losing out on a little bit of money because of that, but it's also making the business much more structurally sound, I'll say. So
yeah. So
nerd stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Cody said, though, it's not really like super recession related. It's just like putting your big boy pants on or big girl pants on, which, or, if you're not into pants, skirts or, doesn't matter.
A big girl skirt. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, man. A pleated long skirt with a nice blazer. Hell yeah.
And then if it's a big boy skirt, it's a kilt.
It would be a kilt. Yes. I agree. All right, moving on. What's my next one? Pick recession-proof niches. So this is actually really a lot harder for e-commerce because a lot of people like B2C or just consumers in general just get really tight with their money. And I think e-commerce brands really get hit the most. E-commerce and manufacturing, I think they get hit definitely the most in a recession. And I guess we can only speak from our experience though. And the only recession that we're remotely familiar with at this point is, well, 2008, but we weren't in business then. And then COVID. So I don't think COVID counted as a recession, but it had the job displacement like a recession did.
Parents lose jobs.
Yeah. So there was a period where we didn't know if our clients were going to stay with us, because if our clients started losing jobs and started losing clients, then marketing was going to be the first thing that they cut. What we found out though was that people who could afford lawn care and afford landscaping still paid for it, and so our clients never actually lost anything, and in fact they grew, which in turn, like 2020 and 2021 were like our biggest years. Like we exploded.
Well, people could argue lately there's a lot of weird stuff going on, but recession might not be the best word to describe what's going on in these last or current months. But yeah, we definitely didn't feel anything. We didn't feel anything with COVID. So our clientele, I think that you think of landscaping and lawn care, there's a race to the bottom for some businesses where they're going to keep working their way down to maintain customers and clients. And then they work with continually lower income customers. And if we were dealing with that, then maybe a race to the bottom is losing no matter what. So our clients have customers who mostly just started working from home, and then they're working from home. So lawn care, that's one thing where they're just, they got to keep doing it. Nothing's changing there. And then if anything, they started prioritizing their landscaping more because they're spending more time at home. So
exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
But we are seeing a flip on that though. So like during COVID, it was weird because it wasn't technically a recession, but it had the job displacement like recession. However, people were home, like Cody was explaining, and then paying for landscaping services because they got to sit at their shitty yard all day. But like now what we're seeing, now that people are actually fearing an actual recession, we're actually seeing those landscaping and hardscape jobs from our clients drop. Like they're struggling to get those high end dollar projects, but lawn care and lawn maintenance is still the same. That hasn't changed at all. And what it comes down to is mostly people who can afford lawn care and lawn maintenance aren't the ones that are losing jobs, just the same as COVID. However, they are still being more conscious with their heavier items to purchase, like a $10,000 to $20,000 landscaping job. So we have a niche that has kind of its downsides from a recession, but it also has its plus sides for a recession. So if we're expecting to go into a hard time, we can advise our clients, hey, we should focus on lawn care and lawn maintenance. And the only reason we know this is because we've gotten feedback from our clients on what services people are still prioritizing. So if you're considering a niche now, or maybe you currently have one and you're not sure if it's recession proof, think about your clients, and who's affording their services. One thing that works really well in recessions is roofing, because everybody needs a good roof, and roofing is typically replaced with insurance costs. So this is only just knowing from firsthand experience, but if you have a niche where insurance is involved and people need the service, plumbing, HVAC, things like that, those are services that people need no matter what. It's not a luxury service like lawn care is or landscaping. I don't know. Cody, can you think of any niches that are like awful for recessions?
Yeah, travel.
Oh yeah,
travel blows. Don't. It's feast or famine. I say that because I had a friend who was working for a travel marketing company, and she was displaced at the time. So
like during COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think some things to keep in mind with that, and it's something that we think about too. I think anybody who's in business for themselves and looking to grow and work on the stability of their business, my mindset is always operations. So what things that I'm thinking about are, how can we only further stabilize ourselves and make ourselves less dependent as time goes on volatilities in the market and in everything. And so like, we don't want to stop just at landscaping and lawn care. We know local lead generation. So there's a lot, I mean, long-term, I'm saying 5, 10, so on years. But as we can expand, we can make that more and more stable while still working within our expertise. So I think if you want to make sure that you're being as recession proof as possible, yes, pick a niche that's safer and more resilient in that case, but also don't get complacent, don't get stuck, keep growing and working to see more ways that you can make your business stable and the ways that you can grow and do that too. And that might not even be new niches. It might just be, what are you bringing in-house instead of relying on somebody else? And what comes to mind with this, with marketing, is I think of, let's say, e-com, the companies that are going to rely either their businesses that exist solely because of Google and Amazon. And you could even argue that we're potentially a Google business because so much of our focus is on Google and we drink their Kool-Aid. But we could still, if Google was gone, people still need websites. People are going to find the websites in different ways, and they're still going to need digital marketing, whether or not it's with Google. But same thing with Amazon or Etsy. There are sellers who their entire business is dependent on this one software or platform. And it's very smart the more you can diversify. And as it comes, diversification is a later thing. First, I think you double down, go kick butt, go dominate something. And then as you're given the ability to diversify, then go from there and grow with different facets.
I mean, yeah. And this is like, we speak from a B2C, a business to consumer standpoint of recession proofing. So when you pick a niche, for instance, for like business to consumer, things that are necessary or things that are luxury services that people who aren't displaced can afford, those are good niches. Now, if you're in the business to business space, so let's say you do marketing for a software company that sells to other businesses, it could be a good thing for you, and it could be a bad thing. One, it could be because businesses are not investing as much as they used to, but it could be a good thing for you because during recessions, this is when businesses try new things. They try new things to push the needle because they do need to survive, and not everybody is going to survive just by cutting back. You have to still grow, even in a recession. Even if the term growth is just staying in the black. And if your company or your client offers a solution that's a lower cost or maybe has a direct impact on ROI that's higher than maybe some of their competitors, and the first thing I would do is target my clients' competitors and target their clients as either a lower cost solution or different solution for your clients' clients to try.
And it's weird to hear about like cutting back and people, I know it's knee jerk in a lot of cases. And it depends how you built your business because when I think of that and I hear people cutting back, it's usually on things they shouldn't have been buying or spending money on anyway in the first place because they were never working that well. So if they're cutting back on things that just weren't efficient or not effective, great. Good. You should have never paid for it in the first place. It's a bad use of money. You weren't investing in the right places. But if you cut back and that's it, that's all you're saying, and you're cutting back on the things that are working too, that's a good way to disappear, I think. I mean, I'm biased because we're marketers.
Well, yeah. And we're the first thing that people cut back. Marketers and coaches, you are the first on the chopping block. So if you're not like actively showing value, so go back to the first episodes to figure out how to show value, because if you're not actively showing that, especially in times like now, you're going to get cut. Mm-hmm. I'm glad this is our first topical one because it's like actually during what everybody is fearing right now. And I think as long as you are in a good niche, you're comfortable that you're lean, that you're not investing in things you don't need to be investing in, then you're in a good spot. and that you're showing your value. But there's one more thing that I have, and it is possibly offer a low cost solution. So whatever your costs are now, even if you are the low cost solution, great. Maybe this next tip isn't for you. But for us, it might be applicable. We actually consider our foundational package like a low cost solution, but even our minimum onboarding of like $3,000 a month or $3,000 initially plus $750 a month, even like that's not low cost for some people. And people who are, job displaced, for instance, in our industry, they might cut their teeth by cutting lawns, and actually just taking their lawnmower out and mowing lawns and things like that. Well, they need marketing too, but they can't afford someone to actually pay for it. So one thing that you can consider is trying to find a very low cost package that's just very foundational for them. Like, I don't know, $100 a month, or some blueprint that you sell for $100 and it's just transactional. They just pay for it. And then that's it. They do it themselves. Either way, it's a low cost solution that you can then help grow some of your bottom line while capturing some of these people who are also looking for different solutions during times like these.
Yeah, I think that there's kind of two ways to look at the way that you sell things and the way that people buy them. And something that's important for us, because we are asking for more money, kind of the higher tiers, is we talk about ROI a lot. Are our clients getting a positive return on their investment? Are they making more than they're spending with us? Right. That's a big chunk of our value, is just mutual profitability. We talk about that a lot. But there's also, say maybe that's not your angle, and you have a different angle, maybe it's branding and that sort of thing. And I don't feel as comfortable because that's not our angle. It's not our expertise. So that's not the way that we approach it. But one thing that you can think about with that is what your client or customer is spending worth the money that they're paying from their perspective? Because some things just aren't cost effective when you try to think about it from an ROI point of view. But are they happy with what they're paying? And do they feel like they're getting their money's worth with what they're paying to? And when you think about it that way, that's a easier way to approach it instead of having to deal with the math. It's just emotional, or it's a service that they need, but they don't know how to do, and maybe it doesn't actually make them money, but they have to do it for their business. That's that kind of mentality. So one example that I guess we would do is we don't focus on it because it's not a big priority for us, but we do have just website maintenance clients. So they need a website. They don't know how to manage it. We do take care of it. It doesn't make us a lot of money. That's not our focus. It's not something that we even want to grow. But there is a small baseline that, so we make some money from it. We really don't pay attention to it. But they are able to get the service that they need in a cost-effective way. And it's still better than trying to bring it in-house, having to do it themselves or hire someone or outsource it locally. It is worth it from their point of view, even if they don't view it as a marketing thing. They think of it as a admin thing. It's still worth the money that they're spending. So that's a low cost solution, and they're happy with it.
So we're not technically in a recession. It's August 5th at the time of this recording. We're not technically in a recession right now, because the definition of recession, right, is 2 down quarters. Yep. And we had 1, but we're trending to, it's pretty apparent that this one's also going to be down as well for our GDP. Cody, what is your take on a recession at this point? Do you think it's necessary to get back out of it, or are you scared?
Okay. Two layers. First, I think what people are more freaking out about right now is inflation. And because everybody's feeling that. Everybody is absolutely. And that's the thing, like, hyperinflation kills wealth. So even rich people who have made lots of money, can just have the wealth that they've built decimated. So I think that's more on people's minds, and I see it every day. I get groceries. Like, I've never spent so much on my groceries in my life. I've never been this healthy, too, to be fair. So
just Lauren and myself are spending like 150 a week.
Yeah. I mean, that's
and
where we're at.
we get cheap stuff too. Like we always get store bought or store brand. We always like get like really low cost meals. Like we're not out there like making avocado toast every day.
Yeah.
We had homemade lo mein with fettuccine noodles last night. And if you don't know why, because one, you can get great value fettuccine noodles, and fettuccine noodles are like 90 cents or 60 cents or whatever compared to like lo mein noodles, which are like $3 a thing.
I say fancy, but you just said homemade, so that's fancy to me because I just do a pretty terrible job at cooking. I mean, I eat healthy things and I cook, but like to me, cooking is like I made a salad. Like that's not.
Well, Lauren cooks all of it, and she wasn't a cook before she met me, but she took it up because if she doesn't cook, I won't eat, and she's afraid I'll starve to death, which I will.
Nice. Well, what do you think? Do you think we're going into one?
Yeah, well, I think we're going into one, but I'm gonna have a hot take, and and I want to go through a recession, because for me, I know that we're in a recession-proof niche. I know that my job in our agency is secure. We don't have any overhead. It's not going to really affect us. And I just bought a house. So if you don't know, interest rates are sky high right now. Like, we're like 5.2% interest rate. It's insane. And for what that's worth, that's like equivalent to like an extra $400 on my mortgage a month. And, if we go through a recession, the Federal Reserve has to slash interest rates in order to come out of it, to get people to put more money back into the system, invest in or get loans, and actually spend money. So as soon as interest rates get slashed to almost nothing, we're refinancing the house immediately. So it'd save us like $400 a month. And I am, from a buyer's perspective, I am excited about low interest rates. If you're getting close to retirement, you are probably not excited about low interest rates. And the stock value is still going to probably plummet while people are spending money. But, it depends on who you are, and where you're at in life. If, coming in recession, because not everyone's affected, and some people are positive. Like this, if we go into a recession, this is going to positively impact my current living situation. So that's where I stand. I'm not afraid of it, and not everybody should be afraid of it.
I would imagine a large number of people who would listen to this, if they are afraid, shouldn't be, just because let me put myself down a little bit. I have some pretty elitist mentalities. I think that I believe in the be so good they can't ignore you. So get really good at stuff. Get better than everybody else. Seriously, like sink more time, do the stuff other people aren't willing to do, and then you won't have the problems other people have. It wouldn't be hard. I would, it sounds dark, but I would welcome a recession, because that would give us time to work on things like creating do-it-yourself solutions. That'd be a lot of fun to be able to create products for people to be able to do it themselves, because we will learn something new. That'd be exciting. And we get to market more in the product space as opposed to the service space. And that sounds fun.
Don't we have isn't there like a recession like every 10 years?
Yeah, supposedly.
Yeah. Because before 2008, there was the dot-com crash a recession?
That was a little further. But I don't know. I'm not old enough.
Yeah. But, so it's almost inevitable in the life cycle of an economy. So if we're going to go through a recession this next month or so, as Q3 ends, you can expect to have another one in 10 to 15 years. So if you can withstand this one, you can withstand the next one. And if you withstood 2008, you'll withstand this one and the next one. We just don't want a depression. That's a different story.
Mm-hmm. I think put your head down, do the work, get good, and then
get
really,
good, son.
These things don't affect you in the same way. It would be like for someone like us, we could go get a very good job very easily. And you know, anybody listening, you probably have some very good skills that are very marketable. And the more you diversify those and the more you become advanced at them, they become worth a lot to people, and they'll pay for them even if they're in a recession or not, because they need them. So it really just, it doesn't affect, it affects people differently. And
I think the biggest thing I want to drive home is that you shouldn't feel like you should give up if you're just starting this out because you're worried that people aren't going to buy your services, or you can dedicate more work at your day job or something like that if you weren't focused on building something now. I think now is the perfect time to start building something and working towards it, because while your competitors are scared, you shouldn't be, because ultimately in this industry, marketing is on the first part of the chopping block. But if you're going after the right customers, if you have the right services, you're going to experience normal churn rate and people leaving, people deciding that they don't want to spend their money because they're afraid of the recession. But then there's also people who are of good business mindset, and that if they're lacking on customers because customers are dropping them, then they're going to realize that they need more, and they need to learn how to get more. So as long as you do have a lead focused or an ROI focused service that you're offering, you'll be just fine.
Yeah. If anything, you're going to be better off than the bigger agencies out there, because you're more agile. You're able to you can move things faster. You can make changes faster, and you're not, what are you locked into, right? If you're bootstrapped or you're just starting up, you're working from home, what are your expenses? You got nothing. I mean, these bigger ones, they get the buildings, they get, they get lots of expenses that they then are obligated to take care of. And then when things hit, they're forced to make tough decisions. But you?
And ultimately the goal for some people is to get to that big business situation where you are forced to hit those tough decisions, and that's okay. But right now, while you're growing, you can take a different approach. Just know, in 10 years when you're big, that the approach is going to change. You're not going to be as agile, and you have to be okay with that. But for right now, you need to make money now. You want to make money now. You want to grow now. This is your approach, is being agile and not having that corporate tape that your competitors have. And so it's okay to think negatively about your competitors because they have that corporate tape, but just know that is in there because they're preventing problems that you have yet to experience.
Yeah. And when you get to that point in 10 years, remember this and put some money in savings, and don't be like every other American company that panics because they don't have a month to pay their employees for. That's what I never
blow
understood.
my minds.
Yeah. When they're like, oh, how, like, the companies, they need money to make payroll because they only have, 6 weeks. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, why do you not have money? I can see companies that have like razor thin margins, like airlines. Like I think they have like a 1 to 3% margin. Like it's like super razor thin. So I can see things like that, and like why do they need to be bailed out? But then there's other companies like marketing agencies where it's like, why is your margin so low that you don't have savings?
Yeah, like all you do is profit. Like you sell people's hours, they work, and then you get money for it. How do you not have money saved up? Yeah. I mean, I guess if you pay them extremely well, but even then you should be able to talk to them and say, hey, we're not giving you the absolute maximum because we do put some money into savings for a rainy day, because that's your job and your responsibility as a company. You signed up for that to take care of that.
And that's another thing too. Like the PPP loans that everybody abused, like 60% of companies abused, which was like, the government gave up PPP loans. I can't remember, payment protection program or whatever.
For paycheck.
To keep people on payroll and not displace them when their businesses were closed. But what you could do with those is literally just apply for it and then pay your employees that, even if you weren't closing or even if your business was doing well, and then just pocketing the extra that you would have used to pay them into profit. And
I sent you that message. I remember we looked into it. I sent it to you and I was like, so we can just get free money if we want to. And you were like, yeah. I was like, I don't feel good about this.
Yeah.
So let's not, because this feels gross.
Yeah, we didn't do that, but we could have, and we could have just pocketed that profit forever. And the other reason too was like, I think if you accepted it, like the government was going to be in your business for like the next 5 years. And we were doing fine. We had no setbacks. In fact, we grew. So we're like, no, it's not even waste our time with this. But yeah, that was that. I'm like, well, we wouldn't need a PPP program if we just held businesses accountable for their own savings. But that's the elitist mindset that I have as well. But yeah, I don't know. Work hard, be smart, don't be an idiot, and you won't need government handouts.
Yep.
Which is handouts from your own money, technically.
Just money back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all we have. I don't really want to hit this topic too hard because it gets boring after a while. I'm already bored.
Yeah. And depressing. And just don't think about it that hard. I mean, don't focus on this too deeply. Just be like, yeah, no, that's a thing. But
yeah,
go hustle. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we're probably like the 100th person you've heard about or heard talk about this, 10th in the marketing industry. But I feel like, hey, it's a recession. Let's talk about it. And then next episode, we can go back to our regular scheduled program.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
See ya.